Hello, my name's Louise and I've had the great pleasure of being one of the guides leading the walks for the South Ormsby Estate as part of the Wolds Walking Festival. As you turn off the busy A16 and first see the glimpse of the Bluestone Heath Road winding its way through the beautiful Lincolnshire Wolds, you can feel yourself start to breathe again. And as you head down the road, you come to the beautiful village of South Ormsby. The walk started from Wood Farm, where everyone was greeted to a really warm welcome and introduction from head guide Pete Staves, before setting off on one of the 58 individual walks put on by the estate for the festival. These included dog-friendly walks, bird watching and butterfly walks, an assisted walk, and the country walk and the park and garden one are the ones I'm going to share with you, and I really hope you enjoy the surprise we had and the behind-the-scenes glimpses. As we walked along the field, we passed this magnificent ash. It has an incredibly large trunk that's spread, and you can imagine how many years it's been there and what it must have seen. Then we have the view across the field of Manor Farm, which dates back to approximately 1660. It would have had an original thatch roof, and you can actually see when you get nearer how the roof has been lifted slightly, and it's now undergoing a project of restoration. Crossing the field, we get the first view of the Lincoln Red cows. They're an ancient breed, and they're instantly recognisable by their curly red coats and lacquer horns. And this was one of the first arrivals on the farm. Though very cute, we're still very respectful of Mum when she's around her calves, but they are a very kind, friendly, docile breed, which also produces fabulous meat, but I feel a bit guilty saying that when I'm around them. Coming out of the paddocks where the cows are, we head down to Furze Close, which is the wood, which helps to not only supply the wood for all the fencing and gates on the estate, which are all taken to Ketsby to the sawmill, produced and then come back to the estate. The rest of the wood is then used in the biomass boiler in the hall, because the first year in the hall the heating bill was absolutely phenomenal for the heating oil, so a biomass boiler was put in, and now the wood helps to sustain that. There are chalk streams running through the wood and along the side, and lucky people have spotted kingfishers there and also otters. It's a very different feeling when you're in the wood. The birdsong is absolutely amazing. Everywhere else feels very still and very calm. You will see muntjac and roe deer and squirrels. We even had a stoat run down the track to greet us. And then there's the beautiful foxgloves growing in between the ferns as the dapple light comes through the trees. It's a really, really beautiful setting. And that then led us up to Dryby, and we came back round and back down the field again. And on the way back, we had an absolutely fabulous surprise. Without being a nuisance, we were able to watch from the safety of the footbridge the birth of one of the calves. Mum was very relaxed. She didn't even get a sweat on, just gave the odd moo, and within 30 minutes from the very start of the birth, the calf was suckling at the end. I loved how the other mums, the other calves and cows came over to see us one by one, and they'd just give a little moo as if to say, we know you're there, don't come any nearer, and then they would go over and they would greet her as well, as if to say hello to the newborn. It was a really beautiful and very special way to end the last walk on the last day. The estate is organic and the cows live out all year round, which keeps them happy and healthy. They're mob graze, which is a rotational grazing pattern where family groups graze for 3 days before moving on to the next, and then it's 6 weeks before the return, giving the grass plenty of time to grow again. I'm going to leave the countryside walk there, and I'm now going to take you on a tour of the park and garden walk. And this is really exciting because this is the first time to see behind the scenes on some of the parts of the estate. Looking across the field to Bishop's Cottage, we can see the seed heads of the dandelions and these attractive flocks of beautiful goldfinches, but they were too quick for me to photograph. In the distance we can see the old school and St Leonard's Church. Samuel Wesley was rector at South Ormsby between 1690 and 1695, and his sons John and Charles Wesley are famous for being the founders of Methodism worship. As we pass the old school, we always get a lovely cheery wave and smile from Jo. Jo is in charge of making the refreshments for all the walkers, and her turkey buns are absolutely amazing, and she always looks after us with lots of coffees and teas, and then we have the gin tasting as well. But for now we're walking on through the park and we're going to get the first glimpse of the lake. Last year the lake was dredged. It had only become 4 inches deep in some places, so it was actually, all the silt was removed and it was taken back to 2 metres deep. The silt that was left over was then spread on the farmland to help feed the crops, and the lake itself, the difference it's made to it, the reflection and the light and the beauty is outstanding. But to see the amount of wildlife that is there, this just from 1 year on, the amount of goslings, all the different breeds of geese, and then the beautiful swans. And to see them this year with their little cygnets, she had 4, and how proud the male swan was in protecting them. It's really, really beautiful. The hall was built by the Massingberd family in the 17th century, and the Massingbirds, who became the Massingberd Mundys in the 19th century, owned South Ormsby Estate for almost 400 years. And the hall itself is about to undergo an intensive period of restoration, and the roof is going to be returned to its former glory. Around the back of the hall we go into the stable yard. The last squire, Adrian Massingberd Mundy, was passionate about horses and bred racehorses. And then we were treated to being able to peep into the old tack room, and this is where you could imagine them being there with a fire lit on a cold winter's evening. Often they would have stayed there if they'd had one in foal that they needed to keep, or a poorly horse, and just look at those tiny little steps that had gone up through the trapdoor, and you certainly wouldn't have wanted to go up there if you'd had a nip of whiskey or brandy to keep you warm. But I love how they've set the mirror up so you can see the bed upstairs and the reflection there, where it is on the mezzanine. Then we were treated to going into the kitchen garden, which nobody normally sees, and this is when you really start to see how much more extensive the hall is and how far it goes back. This was loved by everybody that visited it. It had such a very peaceful, very quiet, very private setting, but the plants that were planted there smelled beautifully. And one of the bay trees had actually had leaves taken, and that had been used as part of the botanicals in the gin. So another fascinating view of the hall. Heading back out of the stable yard and round by the lake again, we went down to the other side of the house, and there you see another vista of it, and it shows how extensive it is. Look at the beautiful wall here. This is the walled garden, and this is where the chickens live. But for now, just enjoy this view. How lovely does that look? And what a fabulous place to be a chicken. I did meet Kiev, the cockerel. He did sense fear, but he was gracious enough to stay away. And here you can see the view of Miss Anne's garden. Miss Anne was Adrian's sister, and she came back here when she was very poorly, and she would sit and look from those windows, and she designed the garden, and it was a real place of solace for her. Coming out of the walled garden, we get the first vista of the parkland, which covers 150 acres. These are the beautiful lion gates, which are the start of the lime walk, but just before we head down there, we're going to go into the potting shed and see what secrets it has inside. In the beautifully restored potting shed, we got a chance to try some of the estate's craft gins. Marie-Jeanne is named after Marie-Jeanne Rapignon of Versailles. She married Charles Bourrel-Massinberd. She was originally his nanny and married him when his wife died, but she outlived him by a number of years and actually lived to 99 years old. Charles Bourrel-Massinberd, local folklore has it that he was the Scarlet Pimpernel. So did he rescue her and save her from the French Revolution? Who knows? Leaving the potting shed, we headed down the lime tree walk. With the stream that feeds the lake running alongside us, it's a very tranquil, beautiful setting. And at the bottom there you can see a fallen tree is a pathway for the foxes into the wilderness, which is a wildlife haven. Between the 1st and 5th centuries, the estate was home to a Roman settlement and a medieval village, and it's this part of the estate where the medieval village was. We pass a tree that was planted to commemorate the death of the Duke of Wellington and the Battle of Waterloo. There's also a Pacific redwood, though not rare to Lincolnshire, it's still quite unusual to see within a parkland setting. Reaching the top of the park, we're looking down the road that leads to Harden's Gap, and over to the right we can see the moor, and looking out over to where Campaign Farm is and where Cromwell's men were meant to have camped during the Civil War. As we walk back along the park, past the beautiful walnuts and all the beautiful trees, we're actually on the old road that would have led down towards the church. But as the people at the hall at the time decided that was too close for the peasants, they actually moved the road so the poor peasants had to walk even further to church on a Sunday. I was going to take a photo of Adrian the last Squire's grave, but got distracted by two escapees. They're trying very hard to look nonchalant and not at all guilty, and would soon return to the rest of their herd. But I will tell you about Adrian the last Squire. The family crypt was full after his sister Anne was interred, and he had asked to be buried at First Close Wood, but for whatever reason this wasn't enabled, so he's buried on the estate, looking down through some more lime trees with a view of the house. Passing the beautifully kept schoolmaster's cottage, every walk finished at the old school where we were treated to coffee and teas, delicious turkey buns and a taste of the estate gins. But I can't finish without telling you about Sheepdick Paddock. Just a little further along the road, opposite the estate, is where you can collect your orders from the website, be it Lincolnshire buff chickens, Norfolk black turkey or Lincolnshire red beef boxes, plus the craft gins. There's a walker's hut there which is open Wednesday to Sunday. There's maps you can collect of the footpaths on the estate, and there's free complimentary coffees and teas. Plus you can purchase eggs and soaps here. There's also picnic tables and a compost loo, and it's a really pretty setting. You can listen to that stream trickling by, and it's a great base to park and enjoy the beautiful walks and the views and sceneries the estate has to offer. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my overview of two of the walks. I could tell you so much more. I am passionate about the estate, what it has to offer, its ethos and its history. So please do have a look at the website. It's listed in the link below in the description, and equally do look out for when we're doing more walks, especially for the festival next year. You would be so welcome to come and join us.